This video looks at how you might use evidence within the body paragraphs of your essays, and it looks at 5 types of evidence: quotes, statistics, authority figures, examples, and anecdotes. Now we're interested in using evidence in a body paragraph, and here we have a structure, an example structure of a body paragraph. You can see the first sentence is our topic sentence. It introduces us to what this paragraph will focus on. We have different types of evidence that you might choose to use. We then want to make sure we explain our evidence and why it's significant, and finally a link. So let's start by looking at quotes. Quotes, of course, are words taken exactly from a source. And here we have an example sentence. Melbourne's Lord Mayor, Robert Doyle, has said that our strength is our history. So these words are exactly as the Lord Mayor has said, our strength is our history. Now this is good for a body paragraph, but we want to make sure we explain why this quote matters, why it's useful for our essay. So we want to add an explanation. So you can see here in the blue we have the sentence you just saw above, and then an explanation. He was highlighting the importance of the wealthy people who founded the city. So this section in green explains why this quote matters, why this is an important quote for this particular paragraph. Another way you might want to use quotes is to compare 2 separate quotes. So we begin this sentence with the quote from the Lord Mayor. So the Lord Mayor of Melbourne's belief that our strength is our history is different to that, and then we have a second quote of the Federal Sports Minister who has said that sport makes Melbourne what it is. So with this sentence here, we're using some language in the green to compare the 2 different quotes. Alternatively, we might want to use statistics in our body paragraph. These are important. Well, these can involve specific numerical data such as percentages, fractions, decimals, whole numbers, or ratios. So here's an example of a statistic. Over 19 million paying customers visited the theatre in Melbourne in 2012. Another example, Melbourne has 4 music venues capable of hosting over 30,000 people. So these statistics help us understand in this particular paragraph why the entertainment industry is important, but we still need to explain them. So here we have an example. We begin with the statistic. Over 19 million paying customers visited the theatre in Melbourne in 2012. And then our next sentence explains why this statistic matters. It reads, this figure demonstrates the popularity of Melbourne's entertainment industry and thus its importance to the city. So no matter what statistic we put in a body paragraph, we have to spend a sentence explaining why that statistic matters and what we can learn from it. The next thing we can use are examples. This can include one or a number of things that might represent a topic or issue. So if we continue with this theme of the entertainment industry, here is a singular example. The Victorian State Theatre is a venue where many plays and theatre productions take place. So this simply has a single example, the Victorian State Theatre. Our next example will have multiple examples. So the Victorian State Theatre, the Arts Centre, and Melbourne City Hall are all venues used for plays and theatre. So we've put 3 examples together into the one sentence for effect. Again, we want to make sure we explain why this example is important. So here we have that explanation. And the explanation in green, these venues are important to Melbourne because. And anytime we're using because, we know we're going to be explaining. We're trying to help the reader understand why something is important. So a good tip to make sure you're doing explaining is to check if you've used because. The next type of evidence we can use is to refer to authority figures or experts. And this is a reference to somebody who is highly experienced and recognised as being influential, and it might be a group. So if we were writing an essay about politics, we might reference something the Prime Minister said. If we're writing an essay about sport, we might reference something some famous sports people have said. In the context of this particular body paragraph, we're going to reference the Beatles, a famous rock band. And so here we have a reference to the rock band. It reads, "The English rock band, the Beatles, described Melbourne as the best city they had ever played in." So this isn't a direct quote. However, we are paraphrasing. We're summarising the view that the Beatles have expressed. And here we have another example. The United Nations has given Melbourne the title of Entertainment Capital of Asia. So again, we're paraphrasing or summarising something that an authority figure has said or done. Once more, we want to make sure we explain these paraphrases, and we can see that here in the green. So the Beatles described Melbourne as the best city they ever played in, and then we have our explaining starting here. Given that the Beatles have played in most major cities in the world, this explains why major artists continue to visit Melbourne. The final type of evidence we can use are anecdotes, and they're not often used in written essays. They're a form of literary technique mostly used in speeches. However, they can be used. Anecdotes are a type of brief story, and they're usually of an interesting or humorous nature. So let's have a look at one. It is said that in 1987, Melbourne's concert venues were so popular that concert goers would hide out overnight in some music halls so they could guarantee to see their favourite artists the next day. So this is a type of story. We don't know if it's 100% accurate. We don't have a quote from a particular source, but it's anecdotal. It's a story that has been passed down, that has been reported. Again, just like with the other types of evidence, we want to make sure we explain this evidence. And here we seek to do that in the green, where it reads, "This anecdote captures the popularity of Melbourne's entertainment industry, which continues to be well attended to this day." So in conclusion, when you're writing your body paragraphs, make sure you have some form of evidence. You've got lots of options to use, whether they're quotes, statistics, or examples. But most importantly, spend some time explaining why this evidence matters. And you might use 1, 2, or 3 explaining sentences. But make sure you do this so the reader can understand why this evidence matters.